Panama City. My name is Sandra Romero Ruiz. I am the Regional Head of Partnership Resource Development for the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent. This is a 45-minute session and it's being recorded. Yeah, I think we are recording. The recordings will be available in the platform, and they will be accessible to all registered participants. Additionally, I would like to give you some heads up. It seems that we have had some small technical issues. You will have to bear with us. Zoom seems to be having some difficulties today, and the platform is really demanded today, the platform for the summit. So please bear with us and please stay with us. So without further ado, I would like to welcome you to this Nature Conservancy and IFRC session, Partnering for Climate Resilience, Colaboración para la Resiliencia Climática. We will hear from our panelists. There will be a short film, and then there will be time for questions and answers. We also ask you to look at the chat box and submit your questions and comments. They will be answered, and there will be a full session at the end for questions and answers. So the Nature Conservancy and the International Federation of the Red Cross signed a global memorandum of understanding in 2018, which formalized a relationship that started in 2012 in Grenada, in the small island of Grenada, with the co-development of a vulnerability and capacity assessment for a coastal community there. IFRC and the Nature Conservancy are working in collaboration with governments, communities, and other stakeholders. And they are promoting better decision-making and resilience through disaster management and implementing innovative nature-based interventions within coastal communities. And to talk about this exciting partnership, we have our two panelists, Steve McAndrew from the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent, and Marcy Eggers from the Nature Conservancy. Without further ado, I will give the floor to Mr. Stephen McAndrew, who has been leading major disaster operations for the Red Cross Red Crescent movement globally for more than a decade, and he's currently based in Panama. And he is the Deputy Regional Director for the Americas of the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent. Over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Sandra. And it's great to be with all of you here today. And thank you for joining us in this session to discuss the exciting partnership between the Nature Conservancy and the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, or IFRC. It's really great to see all the people connected here, and I see a lot of old friends. So I really want to thank you for joining us. So the IFRC Americas region includes working with the Red Cross Societies of the Caribbean region, which is one of the world's most vulnerable regions to the impacts of climate change. Annual disasters such as hurricanes, flooding, and erosion threaten lives, homes, jobs, and infrastructure. As the Red Cross network has increasingly become concerned with the impacts of climate change within our communities, the partnership with the Nature Conservancy has emerged as one of our most important alliances. In 2019, IFRC prepared an analysis on the humanitarian cost of climate change and how it could be avoided. We found that if the situation continued as it was, by 2050, approximately 200 million people per year would require international humanitarian aid as a result of climate-related disasters. In the shorter term, by 2030, this number could increase almost 50% from the estimated 108 million people who currently need support, and the corresponding funding requirements could also increase to 20 billion per year. In our published report, the cost of doing nothing, we saw that there is also a chance to do something. And the partnership with the Nature Conservancy embodies our collective action to help protect our community against the impacts of climate change. Over the last decade, I have seen firsthand the number of people in need of international humanitarian assistance steadily increase as a result of climate-related disasters. As coastal population centers increase and climate-related disasters increase, our Red Cross and Red Crescent operations struggle more and more to keep up with responding to the basic needs during major events. I can tell you that the challenges are the same in small island nations such as Dominica, which was devastated by Hurricane Maria in 2017, and the world's largest countries such as Indonesia, which is still recovering from the effects of multiple tsunamis in Palu in 2018. At the same time, these experiences give me, my colleagues, and our partners hope. We continue to learn from these events, and our experiences show that if we work together, pool our efforts, anticipate and mobilize communities, humanitarian needs could also be as low as 68 million by 2030 and even drop to 10 million by 2050, a decrease of 90% compared to today's projections, which I mentioned earlier. We are confident that rapid, inclusive climate and disaster risk-informed mitigation can significantly reduce both climate change impacts and the cost of humanitarian aid. More importantly, by protecting people from the predictable and severe consequences of climate change, unnecessary human suffering will be reduced and countless lives saved. Thanks to the generous support from the International Climate Initiative funded by the German Federal Ministry for Environment, Nature Conservation, and Nuclear Safety, the Resilient Islands Project has emerged. Working together with governments, communities, and partners, the Nature Conservancy and IFRC are developing an adaptation toolkit to promote better decision-making and resilience through disaster management that integrates nature-based solutions. The project will implement innovative nature-based interventions within coastal communities in the Dominican Republic, Grenada, and Jamaica. Combining the expertise from the Nature Conservancy in nature-based solutions and the local community presence of the Red Cross, this partnership is one that I am proud to be part of. So I would like to take a few minutes just to add a few last words about working with others. It's not always easy to work in partnership. It is sometimes easier, especially for us in the Red Cross movement, to focus internally and prioritize our efforts on our movement actions and the immediate humanitarian needs. For me personally, going back to the Haiti earthquake in 2010, continuing with the increasing scope of disasters in the last decade, and now in the current COVID-19 pandemic, it's crystal clear that we can no longer live in a world in which our neighbor's house is burning down and we can just close our window and focus on our own house and our own problems. Our actions are continuously becoming more interconnected all the time, all over the world. We are all in this together, and we have to work together, not only as individuals, but as organizations. Together, we are learning what true partnership is. It is not only two organizations working together, but two organizations coming together to create something new, a single-minded effort with singular view to help communities through conservation and to help conservation through community actions. A new entity is arising from this partnership that goes beyond the limitations of the individual organizations. So before handing over the microphone to my colleague Marcy Eggers from the Nature Conservancy, I want to thank the TNC project team for their accompaniment, their patience, professionalism, working together with us during this project. We know that learning from this project will go far beyond our program results, helping to provide an example and to support similar actions worldwide. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve. Thanks for the very good insights on working with others and working together with TNC. And also for sharing your experience and some of the challenges that you have encountered, but yet yourself and with the teams of the International Federation in the field. Thank you very much. Now I'm pleased to give the floor to Marcy Eggers. Marcy is the Deputy Director for Nature Conservancy's Caribbean Division, in which she oversees the implementation of conservation programs across 17 countries and territories in the region. She has been with the Nature Conservancy for more than 17 years, and she's working for both the Latin America and Caribbean programs during that time. Thanks for joining us today, Marcy, and over to you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sandra, for the introductions and for facilitating. And Steve, thank you for setting the context for the partnership between IFRC and the Nature Conservancy. So for those of you who aren't already familiar with us, the Nature Conservancy, or TNC as we're often called, was founded in 1951, and we work in more than 70 countries around the world. Our mission is to conserve the lands and waters on which all life depends, and that of course includes human life. My team's particular area of focus is the islands of the Caribbean Sea, and we have a special emphasis on marine and coastal protection, which has a particular importance given the impacts of climate change, where, like other island states and coastal communities around the world, we are already experiencing the dramatic impacts such as sea level rise, coastal erosion, increased devastating storm events, and drought conditions. I'm sure many of you may be curious as to how nature can play a role in protecting coastal communities. As a nature conservation organization, we certainly pay attention to the fact that coastal mangrove forests and coral reefs harbor some of the most important biological diversity in our seas, and this is critical for us to protect. But let me pull up this graphic, and you may also know that coastal mangrove forests can actually reduce erosion and coastal flooding by 66%. Furthermore, healthy coral reefs also play an important role in protecting coastlines and can reduce the energy of waves by as much as 97%. So combined, as you see here, protecting and restoring these natural habitats can have a profound impact on protecting people who live along coastlines. In the Caribbean, this is a huge opportunity for us at the Nature Conservancy and with the IFRC, given more than 70% of the population lives along the coast. And these efforts, which we call nature-based solutions, are really a win-win-win. In addition to protecting threatened biological diversity and helping create resilient communities, healthy marine habitats are also important for livelihoods, such as for fishers, the tourism industry, and overall economic health. For instance, a value of US $7.9 billion a year comes from reef-associated tourism across the Caribbean. Unfortunately, many of these habitats, like coral reefs and mangrove forests, have been lost, particularly as a result of coastal development. And often communities aren't fully aware of these important benefits that mangroves and coral reefs provide. So that's why with our Resilient Islands project, it's been so important to the Nature Conservancy to work closely with the Red Cross National Societies in Grenada, the Dominican Republic, and Jamaica to better understand community awareness so we can work together to increase knowledge and opportunities to sustain these communities for future generations. In addition to the Nature Conservancy having this global MOU with the IFRC, we are also thrilled that the IFRC has joined the Global Mangrove Alliance, which is primarily comprised of conservation and academic institutions, but the IFRC's membership reinforces the recognition of the humanitarian sector that they're giving to the importance of these natural habitats in protecting communities and livelihoods. Finally, I will close in saying how our work on the Resilient Islands Project in the Caribbean has been very much focused on helping coastal communities be prepared for when the next disaster strikes. However, in the wake of Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamas last year, it also helped us build a dialogue and do some initial collaboration around how we can respond to disasters, in which build back better can also be build back greener. For instance, how do we help fishers who might have lost all of their gear in a storm get new gear that might help them be more productive and have more sustainable fishing? How can we also help protect and restore important habitats in places where communities rebuild after storms? I think there are a lot of exciting opportunities for the Nature Conservancy and the IFRC. We're very proud of the progress we're making with Resilient Islands. There are a couple of other more technical Climate Red sessions on it this week, and I encourage you to join them and learn more about the details of what we're doing locally. So thank you very much. We look forward to showing you a video about Resilient Islands and then answering your questions. Back to you, Sandra.
Thank you, Marcy. Thank you for the very, very inspiring exposure. Also, yeah, we don't have any doubt that there are exciting opportunities for this partnership ahead. And as Marcy has announced, we're going to share a video that features the work of the Resilient Island project through this partnership. Please.
Climate change is threatening the Caribbean, its people, and its natural environments.
We're seeing the effects of climate change right here because waves are getting stronger because the reefs are slowly eroding, and that causes the scouring of the beach, and it's taking the sand away.
In 2017, the Nature Conservancy partnered with the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies and launched Resilient Islands. Resilient Islands is a regional effort that seeks to find and implement solutions based on both science and community values. In countries such as Jamaica, Grenada, and Dominican Republic, Resilient Islands is already empowering some of the most vulnerable communities with the tools, knowledge, and nature-based solutions needed to help them adapt to a changing climate. It can be as simple as a community planting more mangrove trees to safeguard their coastline, or as far-reaching as supporting conservation efforts to keep polluted water from reaching the coast. And the solutions developed will also be available and applicable for more communities to use in their adaptation efforts. Together, people and nature can thrive in the Caribbean and be more resilient to the impacts of climate change.
Thank you so much, Meilin, for turning the video. Before we move to the questions and answers, I want to remind everyone that you can write on the chat box any question. Also, feel free to tell us if you have any difficulty or any glitch. I wanted to share with you all, and Marcy and Steve especially, my aha moments, no, with this program, and when I have been listening to what you said, when I have watched the video, and with this partnership in general, it's a very dear partnership to us, and it is beyond the fact that there is this intention and this effort to make it work, to make it at local level. I think it's very interesting for me, coming from the partnership and resource development sector, that one of the main objectives is to mobilize resources and boost partnership at local level, to invest and to have more actors and stakeholders investing in ecosystem-based adaptation and disaster risk reduction. So it's really very inspiring, and thank you for all the explanations. So while I wait for the questions, we are not many participants, so feel free, please, colleagues and participants in the session, to write, and our panelists will very happily and very openly reply your questions. But I have a couple of questions for you both. I think this first one that I have is for you both. You take it in either turns, Marcy or Steve. But I'm curious to know, how do you get the buy-in from other stakeholders to do it, no? To be part of this partnership? How do you, what are the advice, which are the experiences?
Sure. Steve, would you like me to jump in?
You can go, Marcy. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll start. Well, I think, with Resilient Islands, I mean, it is incumbent upon us as our two organizations to be working with local partners from the very beginning. And that's what we've done in the communities in the 3 countries where we're working. And it's really all about empowering them to figure out ways to build their resilience in a way that adds value to their livelihoods, to the people there. And it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, and we recognize that you know, we just can't take cookie cutter and this is how we do this project. It's required dialogue from the very beginning, so that that local communities feel ownership of the work taking place. So Steve, you may have more to add.
Thank you, Marcy. Well, I think the way we can kind of attract and get more stakeholders interested is by the same way we do it all the time, by doing a good job and putting out something that is attractive and makes sense to stakeholders. So the interesting thing of our partnership is that our organizations bring really different stakeholders together. So on many of the places where we're working, the Red Cross is known, and they say, oh, there's a Red Crosser, and people will think of someone doing first aid, emergency response. But then they see us out on the beach in Grenada kind of planting mangroves and say, well, what's going on here, right? And the stakeholders from TNC says, hey, wait, is that, I see the Red Cross youth volunteers out there working in this. So the attraction of our actions calls in more stakeholders and gets more buy-in, I believe. And as we've learned so far, this partnership, it's turning into something different. It's not one organization working together, one organization. It's not 1 + 1 makes 2. In this case, 1 + 1 makes 1. And the one we have is a really interesting project and a really interesting endeavor that's being done with 2 organizations. So I think if we continue to share our capacities, we continue to do good work, and good work attracts stakeholders by its nature. So I think that's what I hope is the answer.
Thank you, Marcy, and thank you, Steve. Very, very, very interesting. I heard not one size fits all ownership of the local communities. A lot of attraction when working together. We bring different stakeholders, and really, again, local action is very important for this partnership. We have. I'm gonna move to another question with your okay. And it's from Marcia Musgrove. Thank you, Marcia, for the question. Will you please give examples of the types of activities that have been conducted so far? I think that's for both also. The second question that Marcia has. And what impacts are you seeing so far with these actions? Thank you. Over to you, Marcia and Steve.
So I'm happy to jump in on that. So, and Marcia, great question. Thanks for being part of the call. I think what's interesting with this partnership. So one thing that we've done so far, so TNC, we do a lot of mapping, and we look at like resilience mapping, like where are mangroves, where are good places to like restore mangroves, same with coral reefs. So that some of that scientific expertise we've already brought to bear in looking at in the different communities that we've identified in the 3 countries. There's been 1 community identified right now for each country. That's kind of our pilot. And so we've taken that mapping. Then the Red Cross, the national societies in each country that have, huge volunteer capacity, boots on the ground, the integration with communities where they work on resilience plans. We're looking at, okay, so how can we bring nature to that resilience plan? And then what we've done more recently is look at, okay, what moving forward beyond the project in collaboration with the communities, what sort of adaptation efforts could we bring to bear? Is it mangrove restoration? Is it coral restoration? Is it, different and different like lively, livelihood activities might help be diversified so that we're not depending entirely on like weather events that could impact them. So that's a little bit. Steve, I'm sure you've got some more to add, but that's those are some of the activities we've done so far.
Yeah, I can add a little bit to this. I can say we're just starting the third year of the program, and it's really interesting because the first part of this was about organizational personalities and coming together. So I would say for the impact on the Red Cross side so far is that this is the first time I've seen where we're making roadmaps and community roadmaps on how to do risk reduction and identify risk and work together. But those roadmaps are being fed by scientific information and analysis that is good scientific analysis provided by TMC and all their technicians. And it's not just somebody downloading a PDF file and sending it to somebody. We have TNC, the Nature Conservancy environmental specialists embedded with our teams working with the communities. So I think the impact so far is that, how can I say this? So in the Red Cross, we do a lot of things. You could say we're an organization that's really wide. We go from risk reduction to first aid, hospital, we do everything, but we're like a mile wide and an inch deep. But the impact I'm seeing now with this program is that the stuff we're doing with TNC, it's now going deeper and getting better. So it's based on science. We have some, our actions that we're doing are really they're proper and correct, and they're also done in a way that's really well done, based in nature and not in the law, and with the we're working with environmental ministries in these countries, which we've never worked with before. We usually work with the Ministry of Health or the National Disaster Management Organization. So I think that the impact is really just so far on our work and making us deeper. Now, we will have this in this coming year is where we really have to implement and start producing some good impacts. But that's how I would answer that so far. I hope that makes a bit of sense here.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a lot of sense, Steve, and a lot of profound and honest, genuine recognition to the scientific community and to the specialization that TNC brings, and also for TNC, all the community hands-on that the Red Cross network brings too. There are two more questions. Let me jump to the next ones. This question is from Marcy, from Adriana Flores Alamillo. Thank you, Adriana Flores, for the question, and thank you for being in the session. What has been the main difficulty up to now, and how did you overcome those challenges or difficulties? Over to you, Marcy.
So that's a great question. I'm going to cheat a little bit and talk about two difficulties. So sort of an internal and external one. First of all, I think externally, as we're rolling out this program, it's awareness, and awareness of, what is climate adaptation, what are nature-based solutions, and we did surveys in different communities to better understand some of that level of awareness. And generally speaking, in the 3 countries, it was pretty low. So I think that as we're getting that community buy-in, it's there's an educational component that's part of it that it takes a lot of time to communicate these things and help people understand what these nature-based solutions are. It's a new thing kind of globally to be talking about. And then I think, as the project overall, we're 2 organizations that are coming at things from totally different, we're working in totally different spheres. And so it's just been for the IFRC and TNC getting to know each other and figuring out how to work together in each place so that we can be that united front that Steve talks about in terms of how we go out into communities and to stakeholders and talk together. So 2 things that are closely related, but I think as far as overcoming it, we've had a fantastic process of collaborating and setting up kind of a work structure with the IFRC. It's something TNC uses called highly effective teams, and I think we've been using it really well to learn how to work well together, so that as we get this feedback from and work with communities on their awareness, that we can be that united front in engaging with them.
Great, thank you, Marcy, for your insight on community awareness and community buy-in. Also on how to overcome and how to dedicate time for that, and how to better understand the awareness that they have, and the two different spheres and the highly effective teams method that you have shared for working together to such different organizations. So we have another question. Okay, so how, as leaders of these projects, Marcy and Steve, and based on your experience, how do you work on your self-motivation? I think Daniel Alvarez, who made the question, very good question, Daniel. Thank you for the great question. And how do you put your self-motivation, and how do you continue with that enthusiasm that you have?
Well, I guess I'll give a shot at this. Thanks for the great question. It's a really good question. And I think it's a question that applies to everybody all the time, no matter what you're doing. And I think it's also a question that can apply to individuals, but also organizations in a way. So I'll give an individual response and maybe a little bit of organizational comments. But so before coming into the Americas, I was working in Indonesia, tsunamis in Palu, and before that I was working in Rohingya camps in Bangladesh, and before that, and I look back, and before that I was in 2003 in the tsunamis, in Indian Ocean tsunami, and now I'm looking back and it's 17 years ago, and I see things getting worse, and I see the same problems, and I see us not being able to keep up. So my motivation is to say, you know, I don't know if those 17 years were good enough. I mean, shouldn't we be getting better at this? Shouldn't the need for people like us and emergency responders, shouldn't this be going down instead of increasing? And the answer is yes, it should be. But the only way we're going to do this is to get in front of the curve and not respond all the time and reacting, because it's getting further ahead of us. So this is a bit of the inspiration, but that's not just an individual inspiration. It's an inspiration for the organization also, because of our analysis and also with the Nature Conservancy, we know that with the long view of things, we have to change to leave this place a better place than what it is. I mean, if all of us come to the end of our careers, and yeah, we had a great career, we did a lot of operations, we raised a lot of money, but if the place is worse than when we started, we kind of failed. And so I don't want to fail, and I don't think my organization wants to fail. And I can see from the actions of Nature Conservancy, they don't want to fail either. They're in this for the long haul, as they have been. So that's a bit of my answer there. Great question. Thanks.
I would just add, I think working in nature conservation, you have to be an optimist to be part of it. So I think that drives our team. And I would just say, as far as the partnership is concerned, you know, our colleagues at with the Red Cross and Red Crescent societies, I mean, you all have to deal with so much really intense stuff, and so for me, it's been so inspiring to have this partnership and to have the enthusiasm of the team, knowing all the things you all work with, and the positive energy that's being brought to this project.
Thanks, Marcy and Steve, for these very, very inspiring replies. And I agree. This is Daniel Alvarez Ramirez. Thank you so much for this great question. I was also reflecting myself, and there is so much on what Steve and Marcy have said. Yes, we have to be optimist people. We are. And yes, we have to be ahead, in front of the curve. I agree. I think all of us agree. So I'm going to jump to the next question. It is from Carlos Breton Castro. Thank you for the question. Thank you for participating, Carlos. And the question is, for the Resilient Island projects, is it going to be implemented in other regions or only in the Caribbean region? Over to you both, I guess. Marcy and Steve.
Right now, it's just the Caribbean, but we would love, I mean, the full intention is this to be something we can replicate elsewhere.
Yeah, I'll just give a short answer. Yes. And the way it's going to happen is by people like yourself asking this question, Carlos, carrying the word and carrying this knowledge with you and asking these questions and spreading the word of this project and how it works. So we really hope so, and we hope it's by demand, not by pushing, but by our good results showing that it's a great way of working, and it's kind of what we have to do. So we really hope so. That's our plan, but we don't have anything confirmed yet except need, and we know that's confirmed and increasing.
Thank you, Steve and Marcy, for these very straightforward replies. So we have Will Rogers with a question, and it's addressed to Steve. Hello, Steve. I hear you talking about the government and different agencies buying into the project, which is great. I agree with Will. His question is, outside of the volunteer base, what sort of buy-in are we getting from the community? Are you getting from the community? And do you have a solid community engagement strategy?
All right. Well, thank you for the question. I think so. This is a question from Will Rogers, who just happens to be one of the, in my opinion, one of the founders of community engagement strategy for the Red Cross movement, and one of the persons who really led the way of that way of thinking, which is now a standard way of acting for us. So it's good to get this question from Will, and I know where he's coming from. So first of all, we have a strategy. How solid it is up to interpretation, but it's also how solid it is based on how good we can implement it. I can say we know that it's critically important to get community buy-in. Without that, nothing really works, and we go around in circles and we fail. Now, what is surprising, and Marcy can also respond to this, even though you've asked it to me, Will, is that what has surprised me in this so far, and we're not yet, I can't say we're up full and running on this project, like really implementing quite yet in all the islands, but we've had interest from different elements, the tourism industry, the tourism ministries in these small island countries. They're actually kind of engaging with us and with the national societies in those countries where they didn't engage with them before. And the ministries of environment are also getting involved. And I see our national societies in those small island countries kind of working with them and around the legal framework also. So all of the stuff that we've worked on for years, IDRL, stuff like that, it's now, this project is somehow finally putting a match to that kindling that we were gathering all those years. So I'm starting to see some good buy-in from different sectors in countries where we would only have periphery interaction with these sectors of society during a disaster, and it would always be short-lived, and we'd always move on in our different directions. Now, this isn't because we're just, we're doing a good job, but it's really because of our partner and their pre-existing relationships that they have, and they've been working with these ministries for years in these countries. So I'll ask Marcia to add a little bit to my response, and I know we're coming up. We have a few more minutes, so I'll just a quick word. We think that the Zoom gets cut off right at the hour, but if it doesn't, I'm happy to stay on. And even if it does, I have my email and Marcy's at the end. Anyone can email me anytime, 24/7 for any questions. And I'll just say that out there before we get to the end. So Marcy, I don't know if you want to add a bit to stakeholders and community engagement.
I don't have much more to add, just to say that I think that's part of the beauty of this relationship, is that we, because we are bringing our own groups of stakeholders in the different countries and even regionally, that just helps reinforce, like, having multiple champions for the work. And we're still, you know, as Steve mentioned, we're still kind of building these pilots. So we hope that this work will continue to go on beyond the time frame that we have that ends next year, for the communities and the local governments and others to keep this work going. So there's still work to do, but we're very encouraged by the dialogues and engagement so far.
So we have, thank you so much, Marcy and Stephen. We have 1 minute and 40 seconds exactly, but we wanted to have also the data, the contacts of Marcy Eggers, Deputy Director of the Nature Conservancy for the Caribbean, and Steve McAndrew, the Deputy Regional Director for IFRC, America's Regional Office. I don't know if there are few words that you would like to share before we close, Steve and Marcy, but before you do, I would like to just mention that I remain really with the messages that you gave us: awareness, buy-in of the communities, community engagement, stakeholder engagement, lots of advocacy, better understanding of the level of awareness. And it's still too low. Still, there is a lot to be done. And these two different spheres that have joined forces, the Nature Conservancy and IFRC, bring more than 1 to 1 is 2. So 1 to 1 is more than that is 1. It's a bigger one and it's a stronger one. And I love that one. I love that message, and I agree. So over to you if you want to give a couple of final ideas, each one of you, and some messages for our audience. Thank you.
I would just say feel free to reach out to me if you have further questions, and I can also put folks in touch with our colleagues who are on the ground in these countries and can answer questions in much better detail than even I can, since they're on the front lines executing this work. So happy to make those contacts.
Thanks, Marcy. I will just second that. Feel free to contact us. I don't know. I just feel as if, look, all of us are in a new world, and and what we're facing here is too big for any one of us. So the climate issue, the crisis we're facing, it's an operation that I can't overcome with logistics might. So it's bigger than any individual, and it's bigger than any organization, the climate crisis. And now with the COVID, it's woven throughout this for at least the foreseeable future. It's too big for any organizations. And when you're in a situation that's too big for anyone, the only solution is working together to get out. So we have to work together, and we have to learn from each other, and we have to have patience with each other and use each other's strengths. And it's not easy, but over time, the payoff is more valuable than just the sum of people working together. So I'll leave it with that. Thanks, Sandra. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for the great questions. It's good to see some of the good friends connected.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Thanks for following up this session. And also, please note the emails of Marcy and Steve. And also remember that this session has been recorded, and we are going to close now if there are no more questions. I would like to thank you all. Thanks to all the colleagues. And there are more sessions. Please. There are very interesting sessions related, as Marcy was referring to before, related to this same one partnership. And there are many others related to many other themes and sectors where we work, and our partners and other actors work. So yes, let's work together, more partnership and more power. Thank you to everyone. See you around. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks all.